If you are still making this pre-flop mistake that I was talking about a year ago, I'm about to add 5 big blinds per 100 to your win rate. Hey, what's up everyone? This is Alvin Teaches Poker. As always, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And let's go back into the time machine where in January 2019, I say, don't play these BS ranges. These are ones that I've gotten from Red Chip Poker. That's pretty much the ones they still use, where they espouse that you should be cold calling in position and 3-betting extraordinarily tightly. In this particular graphic, they have the in position player only 3-betting aces, kings, and ace-5 suited, which is mind-blowing to me. And so now it is a year and a half later. I have some hands in a tracker, and I wanted to show you exactly how terribly cold calling is, and let me show you exactly what the difference is to your win rate when you remove it from your game. So first off, these are my stats. Ignore the winnings, whatever. Let's mostly focus on the VPIP and the cold call and the rake. Okay, so I'm playing about 29% of hands, so I'm pretty loose in a 6-max game. I'm cold calling very rarely, and as you can see in position, I cold call extremely rarely. I actually don't even know why I have a cold call in middle position. This is probably against players who have like very awkward stack sizes, and I have like kind of like medium strength hands. I actually really have no idea. This number probably should be 0, but regardless, cold calling only in really, really premium situations. Usually it's with the presence of the fish, and even then it's going to be pretty tightly because I just prefer to 3-bet and let the fish cold call my 3-bet. Okay, and over this sample of about 100 to 120 hours, I have paid 10.9 big blinds in rake. Okay, so now let's look at a mixture of my opponents and just some hands from Ignition that my students have played that we use for kind of an MDA pool. So out of 220,000 hands, our opponents have lost a ton of money. And they are just getting crushed. So, when you when you wonder if poker is still profitable, obviously, if players in general have a negative 40 big blinds per 100 win rate, online poker is still quite soft, between 25 and 200 no limit. Here, my opponents are VPipping actually similarly to me. I'm VPipping 28.9% of hands, and my opponents are VPipping 29.7%. So really, my opponents are playing 1% of hands on average more than I am. Okay, so I'm getting in there just as loosely as they are for the most part. However, their cold call is 23.7, huge. If you look at their cold call on the button, it's like 15. Cold call on the cutoff is 12, 11, right? It's kind of those kind of ranges that you see here. These kind of like BS call the button with what is that? 6-4 suited? You got to be freaking kidding me. Okay? And we actually can look at what these guys are cold calling with and see that it is going to be a lot of garbage, but we'll get into that in a second. But most importantly, their cold call is high and they're paying 13.8 in rake. 13.8 in rake? Let's go back here. So if we look here, they're paying 13.8 and I'm paying 10.9. That's the difference in the rake. I'm paying 22% less. I mean, just like the raw stats, right? I'm essentially making 3 big blinds per 100 simply because I am paying more attention to the rake. That is enormous. It's free money. So if you're a break-even player and you just start 3-betting instead of cold calling, even if you just suck just as badly post-flop in every other situation, you're still going to just make 3 big blinds per 100 in terms of your win rate. That's nothing to sneeze at. This shows you that if you're playing just kind of recklessly aggressive, you might accidentally stumble your way into a more profitable situation simply because you're not paying as much rake. If we think 10 big blinds per 100 is a crushing win rate at any stakes, 3 big blinds per 100 just off the bat is a ginormous advantage. I mean, like, if any of you do any investing, 10% to any edge is just enormous, right? So 30% of an edge. Holy shnikes. So if you are a 10 big blind winner and you want to be a 13 big blind winner and you have some cold calling tendencies, stop doing it. That's just rake. Let's actually talk about just win rate, okay? So if I'm cold calling pre-flop, very rarely, this implies that, not that I'm cold calling with very strong hands, right? I'm not cold calling with aces and kings or queens in order to like set elaborate traps. I'm cold calling in position when there's fish, when I have hands that are going to have very good implied odds post-flop and going to crush my fish when he's got like king jack offsuit. So when I cold call pre-flop, often it's going to be, again, expecting multi-way pots. It's going to be expecting to play with the fish. And as you can see, the rake that I'm paying is extraordinarily high in general, right? Holy shnikes, this is just huge. But regardless, when I do cold call in position very, very infrequently, seems like I am winning. And then obviously when I cold call from the big blind, I'm getting dumpstered on. So pretty happy with these results. Let's compare them to what loose cold calling. So when you're cold calling, without the presence of the fish, when you're cold calling just solid openers, woo! Huge, huge disasters. It is not surprising that the amount you lose is going to be positionally aware. If you cold call from the middle position, there's a ton of people left to act. And so the likelihood that you're going to get blown up with a squeeze is going to be very high. And trust me, when the under the gun guy opens and you're in middle position and you get squeezed, that is a horrible feeling because you know that the original guy is quite tight. But you can still see that, oh God, these guys are just getting murdered. So first of all, whatever these guys are doing in terms of their cold calling strategy from the big blind is worse than if they just open folded 100% of the time, right? So if these guys were only 3-betting aces, kings, queens, jacks, tens, ace, king, ace, queen, suited, etc., extraordinarily tightly, they would be doing better than whatever they are doing, right? So a ton of money is just coming from our opponents playing horribly from the big blind when they just call post-flop. So if you're asking where does the money come from in poker, this is where the money comes from. Just punishing people when they defend the big blind, obviously very, very badly. But additionally on the button, here, if they invest, let's say 3 big blinds, so out of 100, they'd be investing 300 big blinds in general. So they're only recouping 1/5 of that investment. That's not very good, right? Oh, I'm sorry, they're not even recouping 1/5 of their investment. They're losing 1/5 of their investment for every 3 big blinds. They're losing 0.6. So that's just a pretty disastrous cold call. So in general, every time they cold call, they are getting wrecked by, negative 0.6 big blinds on the spot, which is pretty nuts. Let's go ahead and see what the difference is then when they 3-bet. So when I 3-bet, I make 176 big blinds per 100, which obviously is going to be very high because my 3-bet is going to include all of my very, very strong premium hands. I actually will think that my opponents will have a higher win rate here because they're tighter. Yep, wow, crushing. So because they are tighter, generally they're going to be showing up with stronger hands when they 3-bet. In fact, they're probably much, much tighter than I am. Look at how crushing this is. As opposed to cold calling, where it's negative in almost every spot. Obviously, 3-betting from the cutoff here, this is probably just some kind of variance. Obviously, there's some variance in the stakes here between this being hugely winning and hugely losing. This must just be someone getting dumpstered at 200 no limit. But you can still see that, in general, 3-betting, extraordinarily profitable. Cold calling, not very profitable at all. In fact, I kind of wonder myself now, looking at this on the spot, if all the times where I cold called pre-flop, I should have just 3-bet, right? Because yeah, sure, when I'm cold calling, I'm making money. But the question of poker is not, am I making money? It's, am I making the most money? And it seems to be when I'm cold calling, yeah, okay, I'm not losing anything. That's fine, right? I'm happy with not losing. But maybe if I just 3-bet everything instead, I would be doing even better. So that's something that maybe I've been overconfident in, thinking that, oh, I should call here, let the fish call behind, and then I'll be profitable. And yeah, I'm profitable there, but maybe I should just be even 3-betting all the time. So if you are cold calling on the button, 8-6 suited, 7-6 suited, pocket 5s, pocket 6s, thinking, oh yeah, we're 120 big blinds deep, I'm just going to crack him. Yeah, that's not a winning strategy at all. Both from a rake perspective, which is just extraordinary, and from a win rate perspective, where 3-betting just seems to be much, much more efficient in terms of, seizing the initiative, forcing your opponent to narrow his range, having post-flop aggression, etc., etc., etc. So regardless of how you play post-flop, if you're 3-betting instead of cold calling in all positions from the big blind, that is going to be a gigantic advantage. And so then from now on, whenever you see any pre-flop suggestions that say you should be flatting in position in a game where, rake is significant, obviously at 100, 200, where you're paying hourly, rake is not very important and you should have more of a flatting range on the button. But even at stakes like 1, 2, it's pretty hard to argue from looking at this data that 3-betting pre-flop is just going to be superior in every position except the big blind. Oh, before I forget, it's still coronavirus time. So if you are interested in Overnight Monster, there is a $250 coupon using the code quarantine, which I have put in the YouTube description. We've had a bunch of students join over this time. I've added over 11 new videos to Overnight Monster in the last 2 months. So things have been kind of popping off. I hope you enjoy. Peace.